In tonight's episode of Retro Gaming Night, we meet with a flower girl and play Final Fantasy VII.
Casually hardcore.
Place the game clothing. Game news.
And casually hardcore.
Press start.
Is Aerith or Aerith, the pretentious wankers call her.
Yeah.
And Ketshi is the name of the big toy one. People call it Catsit.
Oh, the cat.
But it's supposed to be Ketshi. It's how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Oh, really?
I think it is. Whatever, I just call it Cat, whatever.
So that's the part I got up to, was like just after meeting him, doing the whole theme park area. You talk about how it's the most returned game in the world as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Return again.
Yeah, returned, like back to EV. Because everyone bought it because it was amazing. A lot of people went, oh, it's a weird Japanese RPG. I don't like them. Right, here we go. Yeah.
Hi guys, this is Neil from Casually Hardcore for another Retro Game Night. Today we're going to play Final Fantasy VII. I love the Final Fantasies. This is a massive game to me. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. In my opinion, it's probably best and my all-time favourite game forever and ever and ever. Final Fantasy is a long-running JRPG series which is not very final but very heavy on fantasy. Apart from Final Fantasy VII, which as you can see is set in a more cyberpunk technology age. The Final Fantasy games are basically turn-based RPGs. As you can see, the characters don't look particularly great for even their era, but the backgrounds and the videos are beautiful. If there's one thing you will get from any Final Fantasy game, it is the best cinematics you've ever seen at that time. Final Fantasy VII blew everything away, how good it looked in the cinematics, and any Final Fantasy that comes out now or soon or in the future will look just as good. So the Final Fantasy VII game, Final Fantasy VII and the Final Fantasy games are turn-based RPGs. I've got my little time bar down there in the green, which is slowly going up. There's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do while it's going on. Just have to wait to get my turn, and there it is. And obviously when I get my turn, I've got the options here. I'm going to cast a magic spell. Again, not doing anything. There's no jumping around like Devil May Cry, no leaping around, no hitting things, shooting things, all turn-based. And do you know what? Maybe it's an age thing, maybe it's a genre thing. I like that. I prefer that in my RPGs. I've always liked and preferred turn-based RPGs. Now, the Final Fantasy VII was a massive game and was the reason why some people bought a PlayStation 1, me included, or PlayStation 2 even, just to play this game. The game itself was originally supposed to be on the N64, but the game itself takes up a whopping number of discs on the PlayStation 1 and would have needed like 50, 60 cartridges if it was going to be on the N64. It just wasn't a viable option, and obviously with the CD technology it was more beneficial to go onto the PlayStation. The plot of Final Fantasy VII, how can I describe this very quickly without going into too much detail? You play as Cloud, who is an ex-soldier who was hired by this group of mercenaries by the very Mr. T-esque gentleman who is just running up to me now. You're basically a terrorist, a hippie essentially. I don't want to be too insulting to the characters in this, but that's what they basically are. They're basically terrorists that are destroying these giant Mako plants, which are, in their words, hurting the world. The world is a living, breathing thing to them, and you're doing this to try and save it. The Final Fantasy franchise is something that was hugely beneficial to Sony and to Nintendo, and frankly any console it came out on. Final Fantasy VII has had a slew of spin-offs in the Advent Children games. It has spawned every other Final Fantasy after 7. Not to say that 1 to 6 weren't unpopular or were popular, they were all great games. So Final Fantasy 7 exploded the franchise and the genre into the mainstream, into the gaming audience as well. The game has multiple characters. Cloud with his Buster Sword there, which is absolutely ginormous. I've done weapons martial arts. I wouldn't be able to pick up a sword, let alone wield a sword that's that big. There's Barrett, which is the large gentleman we just got into our company earlier. Tifa, who is a lady that both Cloud and Barrett have known for a long time. And more characters there. There's the mysterious Flower Girl, which you saw in the intro of Final Fantasy VII, if any of you played the game. Or for those of you who have not played the game, you might be familiar with the intro of Final Fantasy VII. It is what a tech demo for the PlayStation 3 was. That was a good idea to show it. Awful idea by Sony, however. Ever since that tech demo came out for the PlayStation 3, everyone has assumed there's going to be a Final Fantasy VII remake. Personally, I don't think it'll ever happen. But people to this day, after years and years and years, are demanding a remake of this game. Personally, I think it's perfect enough as it is, and if you're a fan of Fantasy VII, you'd understand that it doesn't really need to be changed. But obviously that's a talking point all in its own. So the Final Fantasy franchise is all about numbers, it's all about turn-based combat, and obviously we've got the ability to equip our characters with weapons, stat boosts in armour and accessories, and what's called materia slots. If you see, it says there slot and growth. If we go over to Cloud, he's got the same thing on his buttons there. Basically, the materia slots are like item slots for magic. So you only have a certain amount, you've only got a certain amount of abilities in there. You have magic skills, ice, fire, bolt. You have restoration spells, cure, protect, and shell, which protect your characters from obviously dying and getting hurt. You also get summons, which are ginormous magical beasts that come crashing down to help you out and murder enemies with one fell stroke. Or in the case of the Chocobo summon, it's just a bit humorous. The game itself is quite easy. Turn-based combat games tend to be. The thing with turn-based combat games is you're either strong enough to kill an enemy, or you're not. If you kill a boss, and if you die on a boss, simply just run off, kill enemies until you're high enough level, and you're going to kill him. The story of Final Fantasy VII is brilliant. There's a lot of talking in this game, and it is a long game. This was a PlayStation 1 game that would easily cover 100 hours. If you took your time, you did side missions, did side quests, found secrets, and some of them were very elusive, very difficult to find, you're easily talking 100 hours. I can't really think of many PlayStation 1 games that would last me 5 or 10 hours. A lot of games were purposely difficult to help the length. This was on, multiple discs to cover this massive story. And it also had these beautiful environments which you run back in the lift. So you've got these very artworky, very nicely detailed environments. Some of them were animated, some weren't. But they look stunning. They just look gorgeous. And as you can see what's happening here, we have the random battle system. Many games you see in there, you run up, punch them in the face. The random battle system, some people hate, don't really mind it. All of a sudden we're flung into a battle. Obviously we've got the time bar going, we've got Barrett and Cloud here. They're going to make them attack their enemies, and obviously they take it in turns. I've never been bothered by turn-based combat in games, and Final Fantasy VII was a game that many people might have been their first turn-based combat game. There's an awful lot of people back in the day that sold the game immediately because just didn't like it, found it boring, found it too much talking. It was a weird Japanese game. The intro of Final Fantasy VII in Japan, I might be incorrect with this, please tell me in the comments or not, but I believe the intro of Final Fantasy VII in Japan opened up with Cloud coming out of a brothel, which is vastly different than him falling off a train into a mercenaries battle and fighting there. What can I really say about Final Fantasy VII? The story is brilliant. It's about a bunch of mercenaries trying to save the world from, the world essentially. There's a wonderful moment with a character called Sephiroth and some flames. Many of you will probably know what that's about. It's got some great characters: Cloud, Red 13, Yuffie, Barrett. All of them are great in battle, got different abilities and limit breaks, for example. Limit breaks are basically super attacks when they've taken enough health. I personally think it's the best game ever made. What more can you say? You can't really comment more on a game that is that high up in some people's opinions, even for its age. If you've not played Final Fantasy VII and you've played, say, Final Fantasy 13, or you're looking at obviously the newer Final Fantasies, I feel deeply sorry for you. If you do like Final Fantasy 13, fair enough. But I hated the newer Final Fantasies compared to these games. I'm probably going to happily play this for another 10 or 20 hours, which will turn this video off, and I hope you do too. This has been Neil for Casually Hardcore. It's the best game ever made. Go play Final Fantasy VII.
Did you enjoy that video? Then hit that like button. Why not subscribe as well and get the latest videos, news and competitions? Don't forget to check out casuallyhardcore.com, where you can buy hundreds of video game shirts and geek clothing, or make your own shirts with worldwide shipping also available. Until next time, stay casually hardcore.